Greenville County, South Carolina, has been dubbed the fourth fastest growing city in the United States via the U.S. Census. Here to talk about that a little bit more is Dr. Ennis Fant. Um, and he's going to let us know how this project, this redevelopment project, is going to affect the African American community. Dr. Fant, welcome to Onyx News.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Listen, this is a huge billion-dollar project. How is this going to affect the African American community in Greenville?
You're right, Neil. This is huge. This is the largest project for any county in South Carolina history. The new county office building will be 8 stories, $70 million. And then all of the campus that we currently own now will be sold to private developers, which will be restaurants, retail space, commercial businesses, hotels, restaurants, theaters, grocery stores. So basically what you're going to see over the next 3 years with the County Square building and the next 10 years of the overall development, you're going to see a situation where you're going to have $750 million spent just in construction alone. It's going to create over 7,700 construction jobs, 5,600 permanent new jobs, and 526 million tax dollars for Greenville and City once this project is fully developed. So we wanted to make sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Has any African American been given, company contractors have been given any of that work?
That's where we are. We have not broken ground yet on the project. What the county has agreed to do is to award up to 20% of subcontracts to minority contractors on the County Square, the new county government office building. Now, since we won't be owning the land anymore once the campus is sold, then we've gotten the developer to agree to at least set aside 10% of the contracts for the balance of the billion-dollar project that'll be done on the campus, whether it's restaurants, hotels, grocery stores, theaters, what have you.
Was that a hard decision? Was that to get the councilman or the other participants to allow African Americans to be a part of this project?
It was difficult in that, not that it was the wrong thing to do, but recognize we're in the South and we're in South Carolina. That's just discussions that aren't typically had. They just would have historically gone ahead and built the project and awarded their friends, and everybody was happy. The fact that we brought it up was a shock, but then we talked about the importance of you cannot use tax dollars that are generated by 20% of the population and then exclude that segment of the population in the process. So it's a discussion that's been going on for probably 10, 12 months. It went from no originally to maybe, we'll see, we'll consider it. And then, finally in the end, right as we got into the budget and trying to finalize money, they agreed.
Wonderful. What is the current status of the African American standard of living in Greenville right now? What is the status of that? How is that looking, and how is this redevelopment going to affect the community, raise their standard of living, housing, all of that? How is that going to help the African American community?
Well, one of the things you have Greenville. There's been an erosion of the middle class in Greenville. Greenville is a city of haves and have-nots. Either you're extremely wealthy and have a very, very high standard of living, or you struggle. And we're trying to raise the bottom level to do that. Granted, contracts are going to be good, but at the end of the day, when you're talking about $526 new dollars in business revenue, we want to make sure that the African American community not only gets some of those jobs,
absolutely,
but that the African American community participates in some of the business development that this new campus will undertake. We're struggling. I'll give you an example. In Greenville County this year, out of all the new jobs that'll be created, 33% of those jobs will pay less than $22,000 a year. And the overwhelming majority of those people will be single mothers that are African American. And it makes it very difficult for housing, because right now rent is anywhere from a 2-bedroom in Greenville is $1,500. Well, that makes it extremely difficult for somebody making $7 to $8, $9 an hour.
Well,
so that's what we've got to address. We've got to get better jobs, more so than the service economy. We've got to get better jobs in Greenville, and we're working in that direction and trying to recruit better than just jobs that pay minimum wage or slightly above. But we do have work to do with regards to improving the quality of life.
That redevelopment project, I believe in my reading, it also included residential housing. Will that be affordable for the people you just talked about? Or will
You're
they
right.
be
That's one of the
excluded?
things we've been working on, is we're, in Greenville, we have been used to what I call farmettes, where everybody had a 3,000 square foot house on a 3/4 acre lot. Well, that model doesn't work anymore. So and I would say I'm the biggest proponent of high density mixed use development on council. So we're working towards a concept where not only do we do mixed use, where you do residential, commercial, and residential, commercial, and retail, but what we're doing, for example, if you do a retail on the bottom, the next 3 floors would be workforce housing. And when we talk about workforce housing in Greenville, we're talking people who make between $25,000 and $45,000 a year.
Okay.
Those 3 levels. And then that caps out the maximum height of residential buildings in the county. But in exchange for giving the developer 2 additional floors 5 and 6, then that would be set aside for affordable housing and low-income housing. So you would do some set-asides that the developer would have to do in exchange for granting them 2 additional floors on the height of the building. And
Okay.
that's how we're going to address, or attempt to at least begin to address, the 10,000 affordable housing units short we're in Greenville County.
So this project is a massive project. When is the expectation for it to be started and end? Because you stated that it's at a crisis mode, pretty much, the housing, and as far as African American is concerned. So we can't wait 10 years for this to take place. So when is this project slated to be started, and when can we start taking advantage of the housing or everything there, really?
Well, there's a multi-pronged approach. Now, the County Square project will begin at the end of the year. The County Square building will be built first, because we got to move current county employees from the existing building to the new one. So the County Square building itself is 2 years out. The overall development, the entire $1.1 billion project, is slated to take 10 years. So of course, we're in crisis mode now. So we're looking at several alternatives beyond the County Square project to address the housing. The concept of the mixed use development with retail and affordable housing on top is a concept we're currently working on right now as a part of our comprehensive redevelopment plan in the county. But also we're also looking at tiny houses, or what they call the granny flats, and also looking at some container housing subdivisions to try to relieve the problem of people staying in motels with 4 and 5 children staying in one room, which is untenable and unacceptable to me.
Right. Dr. Fant, this has been great. Look forward to more on this redevelopment and what is being done to help the African American community, as well as other Black and brown people who are in this situation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Nell, for having me. We have a lot of work to do. Thank you so very much.